can you reverse your type 2 diabetes? For most of you, yes, you can. It's actually not rocket science to reverse type 2 diabetes. We've known how it can be done for decades. What is incredibly difficult is the actual doing of it, because our environment has changed so incredibly dramatically that it is quite a job of work to live the life that you need to live that is going to get your sugars back down to where they need to be. The other thing to consider when you're thinking about reversing, or my preferred term, going into remission with your type 2 diabetes, is how much beta cell function you have left, which is whether your pancreas has been damaged by your sugars running too high for a while. And that will be different for each of you, because that will be partly what your sugars have been doing and partly genetics as well. I mean, I'm sure it's experience of most diabetics that you have somebody that you know who is the same weight as you, who eats like you have eaten in the past and has not developed diabetes. And that's the genetic wild card that you've been handed. Your body is not handling the current environment. But why it's been so hard and elusive to reverse diabetes or put it into remission is because the food that's available, that is cheap and is plentiful, is very promoting of obesity and diabetes. And so you have to disconnect from your culture in quite a substantial way, and that needs an enormous amount of support and insight and self-knowledge. And I don't think willpower and self-control are really the keys to this. I think that they set you up for a war within yourself. It has to be about empowerment. And that can be quite a job of work to develop that. What I would encourage you to do is to understand your own diabetes completely. And a good GP will help you with that. If your GP is too busy or too distracted, I'd really encourage you to be very proactive and get yourself somebody who will discuss your diabetes in detail. You want to know how much insulin you're still producing. You want to know how insulin resistant you are and to understand what those terms mean. If your pancreas is still relatively healthy but your cells are ignoring your insulin levels and your insulin is actually really high, then lifestyle is going to be a huge, huge, huge tool for you in terms of going into remission. And if you've still got an active pancreas, you could probably go into reversing. I think you should be really ambitious. But the tools that you need to access are going to be all the people who are writing ambitiously about diabetes, and you also need some self-knowledge about what your own patterns of eating are, what your Achilles heel around food is, and whether in fact any of the food that you're eating is a bit addictive and that you have some compulsions around food. And that is an area that is really exploding in terms of the science as well. So you will need to be able to change your behaviour over the long term. So if you go to our website, you'll be able to download a food diary that will help you track how you're eating and how hungry you are when you're eating. There'll also be information about the impact that carbohydrates has on diet and on appetite, because you might be eating food that is making you hungry. And if you're diabetic, chances are you are more hungry than somebody who has normal blood sugars. And that's a bitter irony, but it should get you out of this ridiculous idea that it's just your willpower. It's not just your willpower. There are things happening physiologically as well that are making it tougher for you. There were also some information about some particularly good foods that are worth putting into your diet. So maybe thinking about adding things in and not just focusing on taking things